2015 was the year of wonderful RPGs like Fallout 4 and The Witcher 3, enthralling matches of Rocket League, and tense adventures in Metal Gear Solid 5. That said, there were some real crap fests, and since this is the gist, I'm going to talk about those games. Wonder, the exploration-based MMO, sounded as fascinating as it did difficult to pull off. While it sparked interest early by subverting typical MMO mechanics like not including combat or leveling, it turned out that taking the path less traveled wasn't such a good thing. Unfortunately, the issues don't begin and end with the fact that there really isn't anything to do in Wonder or any real motivation to explore. Wonder was riddled with bugs and glitches on release, and every interesting feature seemed to be met with a new bevy of problems. For example, the game lets you adopt different forms, and in your tree form, you can barely see the road in front of you thanks to the giant character model. Textures may or may not load, the touchpad may or may not respond to the speech glyphs you draw on it, and you may or may not decide to put down this unique MMO that doesn't quite hit the mark. That said, the music is fantastic, so at least there's that. Mass murder simulator hatred already felt pretty bloody tasteless in today's social climate, although it turned out it wasn't just offensive, it was offensively terrible. When the trailer landed, it was certainly controversial, but once hatred launched, it appeared there wasn't even a decent game buried under the outcry-inducing civilian killing concept. Basically, you kill mostly innocent, sometimes armed people in isometric levels, drive vehicles that feel like they do not want to be driven, and pretty much do that and only that stage after stage, while the antagonistic protagonist gets more and more petulant in his monologues that bemoan society. Never has gun rampaging combat felt this boring. The fact that one of the only nice things that our reviewer Peter Brown had to say about Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 5 was that skating is occasionally fun really sums up my reasons for including it in this video. Expectations were pretty high for this one, given earlier Pro Skater games have proved to be fantastic, and provided the soundtrack to a lot of people's teenage years. Unfortunately, Pro Skater 5's only real resemblance to the earlier games is that the graphics make it look like it came out 15 years ago. The fact that the developer decided to change the art style last minute probably didn't help. Although there are a few moments where skating feels creative and fun, the new slam mechanic messes with the series' tried and true gameplay, and the game's 8 maps are tiny and uninspired. Expect your best skate moves to include skating into stacks of pizza boxes and clipping through scenery. Afro Samurai 2 Revenge of Kuma was supposed to have 2 follow-up volumes. Suffice it to say, it no longer will. Whether you're offended by the objectification of women, terrible voice acting, or just awful gameplay, chances are you'll find something to loathe in Revenge of Kuma. The first Afro Samurai in 2009 was actually pretty well received. Unfortunately, the follow-up is underpinned by a weird indulgent script and sloppy combat mechanics that are mainly comprised of button mashing and poorly optimized QTEs. Just last month, the game was pulled from sale, and the developer vs. Evil called it a failure, saying they wouldn't be making any more volumes. And finally, our worst game of the year has to go to the only 1 out of 10 that we awarded this year, Raven's Cry. Back in 1987, Sid Meier's Pirates made being a pirate super freaking cool. And now in 2015, Raven's Cry has made it a massive damn drag. If you make it past the game-breaking bugs, you'll be treated to the dual joys of misogynistic and homophobic dialogue, as well as numerous hard crashes. Both ship and ground combat feel like a really busted Assassin's Creed alpha punctuated with poor collision detection. The game hovers between wildly broken and simply tedious, thanks to a cliché storyline, pointless and uninteresting characters on top of racist and tone-deaf writing. The game has now been re-released as Vendetta: Curse of Raven's Cry. In a year that featured hatred, it took a real special snowflake to out-offend that game, but here we are. Well done, Raven's Cry. Let me know down in the comments which game was your worst of the year, or which games you were simply disappointed by. I will catch you again next week for our last episode of the year.